as a lawyer, I do not envy Mr. Jha's position, and I don't think I'd be very happy if I had to defend such a position. Because the fact of the matter is, we can talk numbers, we can talk anything, but I don't think Mr. Jha himself can deny that there have been scams.
Oh, yes.
You can turn around and say the scam is not as large as it was made out to be, it was a smaller scam. But the fact is, there have been scams. And the fact is also that from what has come out from Mr. Rai has said that there were enough signs before it happened, while they were happening, and after they happened. And in all three areas that the Prime Minister, according to Mr. Rai, was in the know. He could have taken a step before it occurred. He could have done something when it was happening to arrest it. He could have done something after it came out to ensure that it all came out in the open rather than be covered up.
Important point.
I don't think what Mr. Rai has said is something many of us have not suspected. In fact, we have debated on this issue over the last 5 years, and I think all of us have suspected time and again that the, I think the lady don't protest too much issue arises here. I think for a long time, a lot of people have said the Prime Minister certainly knew about all these things, and this is just a protest of not knowing. Nobody is ascribing direct.
But did Manmohan Singh lie, Mr. Sundaram?
What people did say is it was a political move by him for whatever reason, which move was against the interests of the people of India.
Sir, you know, Manmohan Singh says history will judge me better. That's been his, his swan song line. Because he wanted to walk out of the Prime Minister's office.
Well,
he knew the muck was coming in.
Mr. Rai has himself agreed with you that there was no attempt on his part to influence the report. Now, Mr. Rai has himself said on your panel that Mr. Manmohan Singh was the one. 1 minute, it's a fact.
What absolute rubbish are you speaking?
Dr. Manmohan Singh himself backed auctions or competitive bidding for coal blocks. So I think Mr. Rai has himself confirmed that Dr. Manmohan Singh's
Sanjay Jha
entire demeanor of incorruptibility stands the test of time, and it will be proven no matter how much acquisitions people make against him. I think Dr. Manmohan Singh's character is impregnable.
If Mr. Raja's statement is correct, and Mr. Raja's statement seems to be backed today by Mr. Rai, he says the Prime Minister was all along aware of it. And this was something which was always felt even at the time when the 2G scam, Mr. Subramanian Swamy would say that.
Who you want to believe.
What do you mean, who you want to believe? No, what do you mean? No, 1 second, watch it.
Much of the arguments were that the PMO was aware of it. The PMO was aware of the change of policy.
Aryaman
Sundaram not only was aware of the change of the policy after the fact, but before the fact.
No. Mr. Jha, are you anchoring the program? Just a minute, please. Okay. 1 second. Mr. Sundaram, you're not completely correct. It's not that the Prime Minister was aware of it. The Prime Minister was the creator of something we call the 2G scam. Don't say come on. Don't say come on, because
let me tell you, want to go back.
There are in my understanding. Sanjay Jha, please. Mr. Jha, please.
Give me a chance.
Mr. Jha, please. You see, I believe in a fairly simple logic.
Yeah.
That you either speak the truth or you lie. There is no grey area that you are speaking a partial truth or that you are partially lying. My bigger issue tonight is, did Manmohan Singh lie? Because you can't give me an answer till you understand why I'm telling you this. Manmohan Singh says, in the context of the 2G scam, he says, I feel somewhat sad because I was the one who insisted that spectrum allocation should be transparent. I was the one who wanted it on the basis of auctions. Then he says in 2011, as far as who gets license, first come, first serve policy, etc., etc., I didn't even know about it. It was just the telecom minister who was doing it. He said that. And it's a lie.
What do you mean?
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Are you saying
I'll prove to you that it's a lie.
The Prime Minister was being disingenuous?
I am telling you the Prime Minister was being dishonest.
Not at all.
I am telling you the Prime Minister of India was being dishonest.
I give you an example where A. Raja changed the policy halfway during a day.
I am telling you.
Do you know? Viewers of Newshour
do you know, Mr. Jha?
That corporate people ran with demand drafts.
Do you know, Mr. Jha?
To get a spectrum.
Do you know, Mr. Jha? Do you know, Mr. Jha? And I'm quoting Vinod Rai. In the year 2006, the then telecom minister, Dayanidhi Maran, who's caught in so many scams I've lost count, decided that the pricing of spectrum should not be within the terms of reference of the group of ministers which had been constituted earlier. And he wrote back to the Prime Minister and said that, quote, as I discussed with you, please keep it out. And though the terms of reference were issued, the meeting should have taken place for the entire calendar year 2006. Not a single meeting of the group of ministers took place because pricing continued to be part of the terms of reference.
But that's exactly the point.
What do you mean exactly the point? It completely destroys the Prime Minister's argument.
Raja maintained a monopoly over the telecom ministry. He kept people in the dark. That's the reason why he was investigated. And by the way, he's going to jail.
Ashish Khetan.
I want to make one point here.
Ashish Khetan is coming in now.
As Vinod Rai in his book talked about the CAG acquisitions against the Gujarat government when the Prime Minister was the Chief Minister of Gujarat, talking about 50,000 crore worth of aggregated financial misappropriation. As he mentioned that in his book.
Ashish Khetan is coming in, please.
As he mentioned the Gujarat
Sanjay
Chief
Jha,
Minister and
you may be on the back foot, you may have run out of arguments, but you must let others speak. Now, Ashish Khetan.
Arnab, the fact is that what Sanjay Jha is saying, that the Prime Minister recommended the auction of natural resources, the auction of coal blocks or 2G spectrum, exactly proves the point that Mr. Vinod Rai is making today, that Prime Minister knew that what comprised the best course of correction, what comprised a fair and justifiable policy. He knew very well, there was no dilemma in his mind, but there were exogenous factors which were operating at that time that didn't allow the Prime Minister to take what would have been a fair and just course correction. That didn't allow him.
One second. I follow. Who did?
One second.
Well,
you answer questions, don't ask them.
Correct.
No, you answer questions.
I'll answer your question. Answer questions. Ashish,
one second. Sanjay, 1 second.
Ashish, let Ashish complete. Let Ashish complete.
Okay,
1 second, Sanjay. 1 second. The second point that Mr. Vinod Rai interviews opens up for debate today, that when the Prime Minister's men were putting pressure on Vinod Rai to exclude his name, they were also putting pressure on agencies like CBI to dilute probes, to dilute investigations. And that's why today it's important to ask that why did CBI exclude the likes of P. Chidambaram, Praful Patel, and Prime Minister himself from the 2G probe, from the ambit of coal probe?
Ashish,
and why didn't they investigate the role of the Prime Minister's office, the role of the Finance Minister's office?
Ashish,
it was a diluted probe.
The Delhi elections, if they're held, are 3-4 months away.
It was a diluted probe.
Calm down. You have done a wonderful speech for the party. But let me make a point here.
It was a diluted probe.
Let me make a point here, Ashish. You should know better because you wrote about it.
There were forces within the government.
Wasn't the UPA government following the
forces within the government that were putting pressure on the CBI to dilute its probe?
Wasn't the Congress government
when they can put pressure on the CAG or the Constitutional Authority? Imagine the pressure they were putting on a cage parrot that the CBI was at that point.
Can you calm down? I give 1 minute. Now give me a chance to answer.
I am already calm down. I'm not in the
dock. 10 seconds. I'm counting. 10 seconds. Your time starts now.
All right.
10 seconds.
All right. Now, it starts now. Mr. Khetan, we continued with the same policy that Mr. Subramanian Swamy's party did in 2003, which is first come, first served. So please don't fault the policy. It was a procedural problems created by A. Raja.
Aryama Sundaram.
And by the way,
your time is up. Your time is up. Your time is up.
Let me clarify.
Your time is up.
Mr. Raja went to jail. Mr. Kalmadi went to jail. But Mr. Modi kept convicted people
I
in his
say
cabinet
this tonight. I say tonight. I never imagined a situation will come where somebody will wear the number of ministers who were forced to resign like medals on their political suit. It's happening for the first time.
They went to jail.
Now,
and Mr. Modi kept convicted ministers in his cabinet in Gujarat.
You know what?
And not to forget the CAG reports of Gujarat.
By the way, let me put it on record. The NDA government auctioned spectrum in 2001. That was the price adopted by Mr. Raja and Chidambaram in 2009. And that time the price was 10 times the price of 2001. And yet they insisted on sticking to the price of 2001.
I never knew the Prime Minister. 1 second. Now don't have a...
Why did your government, why did the NDA government move from a licensing fee to revenue share to give many corporates a breathing space?
Mr. Vaidyanathan,
wasn't that something extremely...
That is a totally different question.
And what about Pramod Mahajan's involvement? What about the CDMA and GSM mobile operators?
Why didn't you prosecute him?
No, there are critical issues. No.
Why didn't you prosecute him like we prosecuted?
Well, the CBI is investigating, and they will probably still go to jail.
I know that we have had a Prime Minister. I am coming to you, Professor and Aryama Sundaram. We have had a Prime Minister. What does everyone say about Manmohan Singh? Yeah, he poor guy. Stuck in a bad situation. Never wanted to be Prime Minister. Distinguished man.
Oh, no.
Fellow, stuck in a situation of not his own making. And what did the Prime Minister say? He said, I am not above the law of the land. If there is anything that the CBI or for that matter anyone wants to ask, I have nothing to hide. Did he hide the fact that Pranab Mukherjee, the present President of India, went up to him and said, Manmohan Singh, please take what's happening in the coal sector seriously? Did he hide the fact that Kamal Nath wrote to him a letter saying, Mr. Prime Minister, something very alarming is happening in your telecom sector?
And what did the Prime Minister say?
He said nothing and he did nothing.
No.
This is Vinod
Prime
Rai's
Minister said that the coal allocation has been dictated to me by Ahmad Patel.
1 second. I don't know where you got that. Aryaman Sundaram.
Statements. I don't want to even.
Aryaman Sundaram.
Yeah. Arnab, I can only make one comment, and that is that politicians would try to find any kind of stones to either throw or defend or anything else with all these issues.
Lawyers
but the fact is, when we have somebody who was the CAG, who has come out and has made very, very, very strong statements, instead of people against whose party certain statements or party people against whom such statements have been made, sitting back, looking into it and saying, how do we clean the system? The whole issue is really throwing stones, and that is where I'm saying the problem started. It started not with the scams, but it started well before that. The whole rot had started, and nobody was willing to put an end to that rot. And what has now come out is people at the very, very, very top who are aware of the rot, who are aware the rot had set in, did nothing but sat back. Was it because of political exigency or was it because of other vested interests? Well, that is still to be found out. But the fact is, as a political race, our politicians are willing to just sit back and allow rot to continue and do nothing about it for political reasons.
Part of the problem is lawyers defend crooks at high fees. They get crores to defend them. Go to the court and see. All your senior counsels are standing there.
Mr. Swamy.
Let Aryaman Sundaram respond.
While the lawyers may defend the crooks, as you say, on the basis that everybody has a right to trial, which I've heard you yourself say very often. Don't forget that the reason those crooks became crooks is because the politicians have created a system which permits them to do it.
That's right. And you are raking it in. Arnab, you should give me a commission of the prices of the fees you get, because I filed those cases.
You're not filing those cases.
Now, can you slug it out?
No, they should.
The Subramanian Swamy and Aryaman Sundaram, go slug that out later when you meet in court, gentlemen. Yes, Professor Vaidyanathan.
Don't talk about politicians.
Sure, politicians. Slug it out when you have your
tribe. Your tribe defends crooks all the time.
Fine.
The most important thing, Arnab.
Professor Vaidyanathan. Yeah.
Arnab,
Professor Vaidyanathan. No. Finish that.
Subramanian Swamy always is righter than thou. The moment you criticize a political system and say politicians should do something about it, takes umbrage. Why are you taking umbrage to that, Mr. Swamy?
Because you please look inward.
Let's get the debate back.
So we're talking about Manmohan Singh. Settle your scores later and after the program.
Yeah,
Professor Vaidyanathan, I still have to ask questions about Praful Patel's role. I'm coming in a minute to Rahul Narvekar. I thought he would run away from the program. Yeah.
Arnab, it is the most idiotic argument to say that the same policy was followed from Nehru's time. Let me repeat, it is most important to understand policies do not produce scams. The way you do it, the process, the procedures, they are the ones which induces and generate scams. No point in telling that we are following the same policy. Prime Minister was a school teacher who I thought all along that rowdy students he just tolerated, he just smiled.
No, I disagree with that the policies don't lead to corruption. Certain policies are tailor-made. Certain policies are tailor-made to promote corruption and certain business houses. Certain policies are tailor-made for certain business houses. So policies are corrupt, and the Supreme Court has struck down first come first serve policy and the coal allocation policy, which was in play both under NDA and UPA. We should remind ourselves that the Supreme Court has indicted both the BJP and the UPA for their telecom and coal block policies. So policies are in fact corrupt, and policies do in fact lead to corruption.
Rahul Narvekar of the NCP.
No.
Rahul Narvekar of the NCP, my last question to you is 1 minute. You were supposed to join earlier. You've joined at the fag end.
You ask him.
I thought you were not coming because you didn't know what to respond on Praful Patel's behalf. Now, Vinod Rai says that Praful Patel, there were 28 planes Air India was wanting to buy. Praful Patel puts pressure on the Air India board. I don't know what expertise Praful Patel has as a minister. He gets desperate, according to this version. Puts pressure on the Air India board, says don't buy 28, buy 68. 40 more planes, 38,000 crore rupees, and later goes berserk and seems to send Civil Aviation Ministry officials to put pressure on Vinod Rai and say, please don't mention that the minister nudged Air India into buying these planes. Now, why did Praful Patel put pressure?
He bullied them.
No, why did Praful Patel put pressure?
He didn't nudge, he bullied.
B, is it Praful Patel's money that 40,000 crore rupees means nothing to him? C, which business model, supply side business model is he following?
Well,
buy the planes and then we'll generate the business. 4, therefore, should there be a separate investigation into what Praful Patel did or did not do? And besides taking moral umbrage, do you have anything factual to say tonight? Rahul Narvekar, you came late, you have a few minutes now.
Well, Arnab Goswami,
I know my name, come to the point.
Marathon of questions. I only request you to give me enough time to respond to all the questions that you've put across to me.
You joined at the fag end, you please respond
I have
quickly.
No reasons to believe. Number one, I have no reasons to believe that whatever Mr. Rai has said is the gospel truth.
Really?
Number two, why has Mr. Rai come out at this belated stage and made such revelations to Mr. Arnab Goswami or to the Times Now channel? I think he's done the biggest disservice to the nation.
All right.
If at all, what he said is true,
all right,
has been said, if it has been said now and not then.
Oh,
so
really?
I have no reasons to believe that there is any veracity, honesty or truth in what Mr. Rai has said.
Right.
Country today needs more like
Be that as it may. Be that as it may.
We need more Vinod Rais.
Be that as it. Be
so
that
why
as
are you
it
stumbling?
May. Let me also tell you that the decision to invest more in aircrafts was not taken individually by a single minister or by a single individual. That was the decision of the board. And it was the collective responsibility of the board.
Why was Praful Patel putting any influence on the board?
I think this is nothing. This is nothing but witch hunting. And therefore, I don't think a responsible channel like Times Now,
sir, don't teach me my responsibility.
Channel like Times Now,
don't teach me my responsibility.
Indulge in these activities.
You drove Air India to bankruptcy.
In these activities.
Don't teach me my responsibility.
You indulge in such activities in the absence of
and you're saying that
in the absence of any.
I don't know.
Any legal verdict on this behalf.
I don't know.
The 2G spectrum
I just want to know that it is the responsibility of a civil aviation minister. 1 second. It is the responsibility, in my view, of a civil aviation minister to do everything possible to save costs for the nation and make money for the nation, not to do anything which only ends up making money for companies in Seattle, United States of America. Now, Mr. Narvekar, you don't understand what I'm saying.
Unfortunately for you,
there's nothing unfortunate about it.
Mr. Goswami, unfortunately for you, Your assessment of business is not the accurate assessment always.
So what is the kind of business model? No, unfortunately for you, Mr. Rahul Narvekar, I want to understand. Unfortunately for you, Mr. Narvekar, I want to understand which company in the world, name one company in the world, Mr. Narvekar. We have limited time. Take a few questions. Take a few questions.
They have taken this decision.
My question tonight to Rahul.
Parliamentary body,
unfortunately for you, you are not a part of that decision.
Praful Patel's aviation policy. Now, Praful Patel was also indicted by the Parliamentary Standing Committee. The findings of the Parliamentary Standing Committee are in complete sync with the findings of the CAG. CAG alone has not indicted Praful Patel and the Civil Aviation Ministry or the UPA for buying such a large number of aircraft. The Parliamentary Standing Committee repeatedly found faults with Praful Patel's policy of buying such a large number of aircraft and found that it was a complete waste of money and it drove India to bankruptcy.
The problem,
it bled Air India. The Parliamentary Standing Committee.
The problem with you.
Standing Committee said that Praful Patel's policies were in the realm of impropriety. Yes, they were completely impropriety, in the realm of impropriety, and completely unreasonable. They were completely unreasonable. We didn't require such a large number of
in one go. They believe in spreading rumors based on half truth and half information. The Aam Aadmi Party has already projected how they don't believe in the judiciary, how they don't believe in democracy.
I'm closing this debate.
There is no court in this country that has indicted.
At this stage, I'd like to say this, that there can be no smoke without fire, and a person like Vinod Rai would not make things up. Now keep in mind, Vinod Rai was once upon a time Manmohan Singh's student. He wouldn't say this about Manmohan Singh if there hadn't been something factually true. He wouldn't say this about Praful Patel had there not been something behind it. And whatever that something is cannot be dismissed by simply saying he's a bad man. We're going to follow this debate up across the country today. There's a big debate on what Vinod Rai has said. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me on debate number 1 on the Newshour tonight.